The vast emptiness of space lit up with a brilliant flash of blue light. Where there was nothing just moments ago, now floated a massive ship of dark steel and gleaming titanium. The human warship Relentless had arrived, its hull still crackling with the energy of hyperspace travel. Captain Reed stood at the bridge's main viewport, his weathered hands clasped behind his back. His gray eyes scanned the alien fleet ahead. 20 smaller ships arranged in a perfect defensive formation. Too perfect, he thought. The kind of formation that came from centuries without real combat. "Sir, they're scanning us," Lieutenant Wilson reported from his station. The young tactical officer's fingers danced across his console, gathering data about the alien vessels. "Their weapons are powered down, but their shields are at maximum." Reed nodded slowly, taking in every detail of the ships before him. They were beautiful in their own way, all sweeping curves and golden hulls that seemed to catch the light of nearby stars. But beauty didn't win battles, and something about their design struck him as form over function. "What do we know about them?" Reed asked, not taking his eyes off the view. Intelligence Officer Marcus spoke up from his station, his voice carrying the calm precision that had earned him his position. "Nothing in our database matches their design, sir, but their formation suggests a highly organized society. They're maintaining exact distances between ships, down to the meter." The bridge crew worked in focused silence, each person aware of the weight of this moment. Humanity's first contact with an advanced alien civilization was about to happen, and they were the ones making it. "Sir, they're broadcasting some kind of signal," Communications Officer Jones announced. Her voice held steady despite the tension. It's like they're trying every frequency at once." "Should I respond?" Reed straightened his uniform. "Put it on screen and open a channel. Let's show them we know how to be civil." The main screen flickered to life, revealing a sight that made several crew members gasp. The aliens looked almost like tall, elegant statues made of crystal. Their bodies seemed to shimmer with inner light, and their eyes, all 4 of them, blinked in perfect unison. "This is Captain James Reed of the Earth warship Relentless," Reed spoke clearly and calmly. "We come in peace and wish to establish diplomatic relations." The alien commander's response came through the translator as a series of musical tones before converting to English. "Unknown vessel, you have entered collective space. Your presence here is a violation of our laws. Power down your systems and prepare to be boarded." Reed's expression didn't change, but his posture stiffened slightly. "I'm afraid we can't do that. We're here on a mission of peaceful exploration and first contact. Perhaps we could discuss." Silence. The alien commander's crystal form flashed bright red. "The collective does not negotiate with lesser species. Your ship design is primitive, your presence here is unauthorized, and your continued transmission is an insult." Lieutenant Wilson's console suddenly lit up with warning signals. "Sir, they're charging weapons. All ships, moving to attack positions." Reed's mind raced through his options. The Relentless could probably take on the entire fleet if needed. Human weapons technology had been refined through centuries of warfare. But that wasn't why they were here. "Hold position," Reed ordered. "Shields at maximum, but do not power up weapons. Let's show them we can take a punch before we throw one." The alien ships spread out in an attack pattern that any first-year cadet would recognize as outdated. Their golden hulls gleamed as they moved to surround the Relentless, clearly expecting the human vessel to panic or surrender. "Sir," Marcus called out, his voice tight with sudden understanding. "I'm analyzing their communications chatter. They've never encountered a species that didn't immediately submit to them. They don't even have protocols for this situation." Reed allowed himself a small smile. "Well then, let's give them a lesson in human diplomacy. Starting with Lesson 1, we don't surrender just because someone tells us to." The collective ships completed their encirclement, their weapons charged and ready. But aboard the Relentless, the bridge crew remained calm. They had trained for this, prepared for this, and now they would show these aliens exactly what humanity was made of. The first shots were about to be fired, and the galaxy would never be the same. The golden ships of the collective tightened their formation around the Relentless. Their weapon ports glowed with building energy, casting eerie shadows across the human vessel's dark hull. Inside the bridge, Captain Reed remained standing, his calm presence steadying his crew's nerves. Final warning. The crystal-like alien commander's voice boomed through the speakers. Submit to boarding or face destruction. You have 30 seconds to comply. Reed exchanged a quick glance with Lieutenant Wilson at Tactical. The younger officer's fingers hovered over his console, ready but waiting. That patience, that control, it was what separated human warriors from simple fighters. "Sir," Officer Marcus called out quietly. "Their weapons, they're running hot. Really hot. Their power systems are pushing past safety limits. They've never had to fire their main guns before." A small smile tugged at Reed's lips. "Noted. Jones, open a channel." He waited for the communications officer's nod. "Collective command, this is Captain Reed. I understand you're used to immediate compliance, but humans do things differently. We prefer to talk." The alien commander's crystalline form flashed with patterns of red and orange. Signs of agitation their sensors were just beginning to decode. "You dare to continue this insolence? Perhaps a demonstration is needed." The closest collective ship fired a shot that streaked past the Relentless's bow, missing by mere meters. The energy beam was impressive, beautiful even. But Reed noticed how the firing ship's shields dimmed momentarily. Their power management was terrible. "Sir," Wilson's voice carried an urgent tone. "They're getting target locks. All ships. Their firing solutions are, well, they're not great, but with this many ships." Reed raised his hand for silence. "Let them make the next move. But Wilson, plot me a course through their formation. Non-lethal countermeasures only. Marcus, keep recording everything. Jones, broadcast on all frequencies. Let everyone see what happens next." The bridge crew worked with quiet efficiency, each person knowing their role. This wasn't their first tense situation, though it was certainly their most historic. The collective commander's next transmission carried a tone of smug superiority. "Your silence is wise, primitive ones. Now power down your shields and—" A new voice cut through the channel, younger, urgent, one of the collective's ship captains. "Command, the human vessel, their power readings, they're not using standard containment fields. Their technology, it's not primitive at all." Silence. The commander's form pulsed with angry light. "All ships, open fire. Show these humans the might of the collective." 20 golden ships fired as one. The space around the Relentless lit up like a newborn sun. The alien crew watched, expecting to see the human ship torn apart. Instead, the Relentless's shields caught every shot, the energy dispersing in beautiful patterns across its protective barrier. The human ship hadn't even shaken from the impact. "Shields holding at 92%, Wilson reported calmly. "Their weapons are overheating. 3 of their ships have dropped shields to redirect power to weapons." Reed nodded. "Time for lesson 2. The difference between showing force and using it. Take us in, pattern Delta. Non-lethal responses only." The Relentless moved. Not with the elegant sweeping motions of the collective ships, but with precise, purposeful acceleration. It slid through their formation like water through rocks, its point defense systems firing short, controlled bursts. The collective ships scattered in panic. Their perfect formation broke apart as they tried to track the human vessel's movements. 2 ships collided, their shields sparking. 3 more found their engines temporarily offline from precise human countermeasures. "Sir," Marcus called out, excitement creeping into his voice. "Their command channels are in chaos. The younger officers, they're asking questions. About us. About why they've never heard of humans before. About why their weapons aren't working as expected." Reed watched the golden ships flailing about, their attacks growing more desperate and less coordinated. "Send another broadcast. Same message as before. We're here to talk, not fight. The collective commander's response was immediate and furious. You dare. You embarrass us and then ask for talk. This is not how things are done. No, Reed replied calmly. This isn't how you do things. But maybe it's time for something new. We can either spend the next hour watching your ships waste energy and put their crews at risk, or we can have a real discussion. As equals. The silence that followed stretched for almost a minute. Around the Relentless, the collective ships hung in space, their weapons still hot but no longer firing. Something had changed. The question was, what would they do about it? The silence broke with a single shot from the collective flagship. The energy beam sliced through space, aimed directly at the Relentless's bridge. But instead of the devastating impact the aliens expected, something remarkable happened. The human ship's defense system activated. A web of smaller energy beams reached out and caught the incoming attack, breaking it apart like light through a prism. The scattered energy washed harmlessly over the shields, creating a spectacular light show. Now that, Reed said quietly, was actually a decent shot. He turned to Wilson. Show them what a warning shot really looks like. Wilson's fingers moved across his console with practiced ease. The Relentless's main gun powered up, but instead of the expected blast, it released a precise pulse of energy. The beam threaded through the collective formation, passing within meters of 3 ships without touching them. It continued past the fleet and struck a small asteroid in the distance, cutting it cleanly in half. The collective ships froze. Their formation, already scattered, completely fell apart. "Sir," Marcus called out, his voice filled with barely contained excitement. "They're command channels. They're going crazy. Listen to this." He pressed a button, and translated alien voices filled the bridge. "Did you see that precision? How do they calculate the trajectory so quickly? Their targeting systems must be generations ahead of ours." Reed allowed himself a small smile. Sometimes the best way to prevent a war was to show exactly why starting one would be a bad idea. "Jones, get me a channel to their flagship." Before Jones could respond, new alerts flashed across every screen. 3 collective ships had broken away from their fleet, their engines pushing to maximum burn. But they weren't running away. They were on an attack course. "Young hotshots," Wilson muttered, "always have to prove something." Reed's expression hardened. "Target their engines only. Show them what happens when you actually try to fight a warship." The Relentless moved with deadly grace. Its point defense systems came alive, not with the wild sprays of energy the collective used, but with precise, surgical strikes. The first attacking ship's engines sputtered and died. The second found its weapon systems completely offline. The third, seeing what happened to its companions, tried to turn away, only to find itself trapped in a low-power tractor beam. "All 3 ships disabled," Wilson reported. "No casualties. Their life support systems are stable, but they won't be going anywhere for a while." Marcus's console lit up again. "Sir," more chatter from their fleet. "The younger officers, they're impressed. Some are even saying we showed mercy by not destroying those ships." "Good," Reed nodded. "That's exactly what we wanted them to understand. Jones, open a channel to their flagship again. Let's see if they're ready to talk now." The main screen flickered to life. The crystalline commander appeared, but something had changed. The angry red pulses in its form had been replaced by slower, more thoughtful patterns of blue and green. "Your weapons," the commander spoke slowly. "You could have destroyed those ships. Why didn't you?" Reed stepped forward. "Because that's not why we're here. Humanity has fought enough wars to know that the best victory is the one where nobody dies. Those ships attacked us, yes, but their crews are just doing their duty. They don't deserve to die for following orders." The alien commander was silent for a long moment. When it spoke again, its tone had changed. "You speak of war as if you know it well. Yet you show restraint that I have never seen before." "We know war," Reed replied. We know it too well. That's why we prefer peace. But peace doesn't mean weakness. It means being strong enough to choose when not to fight. More alerts flashed across the bridge screens. The remaining collective ships were powering down their weapons. One by one, their energy signatures dropped to minimal levels. Perhaps, the commander said slowly, we have much to learn from each other. You are not what we expected, humans. Reed smiled. That's something we hear a lot. Now, shall we start over? This time with actual diplomacy. The tension on the bridge began to ease. The first real battle between humanity and the collective was over. Now came the harder part, building understanding between two very different cultures. But as Reed looked at his crew's proud faces, he knew they had taken the first crucial step. They had shown that humanity could be both strong and wise, both powerful and merciful. The real test would be what came next. The next few hours aboard the Relentless were tense but hopeful. The human warship maintained its position, while the disabled collective vessels were towed back to their fleet by their companions. Captain Reed watched the careful rescue operation from the bridge, noting how the aliens' perfect formation had given way to more practical, adaptive movements. They learned fast, Wilson observed from his station. Those towing maneuvers, they're copying our approach from earlier. Reed nodded, but before he could respond, Marcus called out from his intelligence station. Sir, you need to see this. I've decoded more of their internal communications. The collective, they're not just one species. They're an empire of conquered races. The bridge crew fell silent. Reed turned to face Marcus. Explain. Marcus's fingers flew across his console, bringing up translated messages on the main screen. The crystalline beings we see, they're just the ruling class. Every ship has crews from different species, all serving under crystalline commanders. And sir, none of those other species are allowed to advance their technology or military capability. Well, Reed said quietly, that explains their outdated tactics and poor power management. They're deliberately keeping their subject species from learning too much. He paused, thinking. Jones, what's the status of our diplomatic channel? Still open, sir. The collective commander has been consulting with their high command. They're arguing. As if on cue, the main screen lit up. The crystalline commander appeared. But this time Reed noticed something he'd missed before. Smaller, different-looking aliens working in the background. Some looked almost plant-like. Others reminded him of Earth's octopi. All moved with the same careful, measured pace of people used to being washed. Human vessel. The commander's voice carried a new tone. Uncertainty mixed with curiosity. Our high command has questions. You demonstrate technology that should be impossible for a species we've never encountered. Your tactics show experience our records say you cannot have. Explain. Reed straightened his uniform. Commander, humanity's history is different from what you're used to. We developed on our own, fought our own battles, made our own mistakes. Everything we know, we learned the hard way. The commander's crystalline form flickered with patterns Reed was beginning to recognize as confusion. You evolved. Without guidance. Without control. That's right. Reed gestured to his crew. Every human you see here comes from a different part of Earth. Different cultures, different backgrounds. But we work together because we choose to, not because we're forced to. Marcus's console beeped urgently. Sir, massive spike in collective communications. The other species, they're listening. All of them. Someone's broadcasting our conversation to every ship in the fleet. Reed saw the commander's form pulse with alarm. Clearly, this wasn't supposed to happen. But before the alien could cut the transmission, new voices broke into the channel. Is it true? They developed their own technology. No one controlling them. Look how they work together. The commander's form flashed with angry red patterns. Silence. This is not proper protocol. You will all. Let them ask. Reed interrupted firmly. Let them learn. Your empire is built on control, But look where that's got you. Your weapons overheat because you don't let engineers solve problems. Your tactics fail because you don't let soldiers think for themselves. You're not making your empire stronger. You're holding it back. The bridge fell silent. Even the background aliens on the collective ship had stopped moving, frozen in place as Reed's words hung in space. The commander's crystalline form cycled through multiple color patterns, like someone struggling with conflicting thoughts. Finally, a new voice joined the channel, an older, deeper tone that made the commander snap to attention. "I am High Admiral Stone of the Collective High Command. Captain Reed, you have caused quite a disturbance in our ordered society." "Not intentionally, Admiral," Reed replied calmly. "We came here to meet new civilizations, not to disrupt them." And yet, the High Admiral's voice carried an odd note of amusement. "Disruption seems to follow humans naturally. Our reports show your ship could have destroyed our entire fleet. Instead, you disabled 3 ships without casualties and turned our own crews curious. Most irregular." Reed allowed himself a small smile. Humanity had to learn the hard way that the strongest society is one that lets all its people grow. Maybe it's time the collective learned that too. High Admiral Stone's next words surprised everyone. "Captain Reed, would you be willing to show us?" "Show you what exactly?" Reed asked carefully. "Show us humanity. Your history, your development, your—" The Admiral paused, as if the word was foreign to him. "Freedom." Reed looked at his crew. Jones nodded eagerly at her communication station. Marcus was already pulling up historical files. Even Wilson had a slight smile on his face. "Jones, prepare a data package. Marcus, help her select the content. Let's show them everything, the good and the bad. They need to see how we learned from our mistakes." The bridge crew worked quickly, assembling humanity's story. Wars and peace treaties, scientific breakthroughs and terrible accidents, failed experiments and stunning successes. All of it went into the transmission. "Package ready, sir," Jones reported. "But, sir, the collective ships are moving." Reed looked up at the main screen. The golden ships had begun to shift position, not into attack formation, but rather spreading out in a wide circle. More ships were arriving from deeper in collective space, drawn by the news of what was happening. "They're gathering to watch," Marcus said softly. "Every ship is linking to the broadcast network. This has never happened before in their history." Reed straightened his uniform. "Then let's make it count. Jones, begin transmission. Full spectrum, maximum clarity. Let them see everything." The data stream began. On every collective ship, crews gathered around view screens. The crystalline commanders watched with their subordinate species as Earth's history played out before them. They saw humans rise from stone tools to spaceflight. They watched as nations fought and made peace, how rivals became allies. They witnessed humanity's greatest achievements and darkest moments, all part of the journey that led to this moment. "Sir," Marcus called out, his voice tight with excitement. "The reactions, they're incredible. The plant-like species are comparing our agricultural development to their own history. The aquatic crews are studying our ocean exploration techniques. Even some of the crystalline commanders are showing interest in our diplomatic archives." Reed watched as more and more ships arrive, their crews joining the impromptu history lesson. "How many ships now?" "Over 50, sir," Wilson reported. "But they're keeping their weapons powered down. They're just watching." The main screen flickered as High Admiral Stone appeared again. The ancient crystalline being's form showed colors Reed hadn't seen before, deep blues and purples that seemed to ripple like waves. "Your species," Stone spoke slowly, "you faced extinction-level events. Multiple times. Yet you survived. Without guidance. Without control. How?" "Because we were free to try everything," Reed answered. "Every culture, every nation brought their own ideas. Sometimes we fought over those ideas, but we also learned from each other. Every failure taught us something. Every success was built on countless mistakes. A new voice joined the channel, one of the plant-like aliens speaking without permission for the first time in perhaps centuries. Like us before the Unity, we had many ways of growing, many types of seeds. Silence. A crystalline commander tried to interrupt, but Stone raised a hand. No, let them speak. We have done much watching today. Perhaps it is time we also listened. The channel erupted with voices. Species that had been silent for generations began to share their own histories. Stories of innovation and creativity from before they joined the collective poured out. The crystalline commanders watched in stunned silence as their carefully maintained order transformed into passionate discussion. Captain Reed, Stone's voice cut through the chaos. I begin to understand why your ship is called Relentless. You have not fired a shot since disabling those 3 vessels, yet you have caused more change in the collective than centuries of rebellion. Reed smiled. Sometimes the most powerful weapon is an idea. Admiral, the idea that people can be trusted to find their own way. That progress comes from freedom, not control. The Admiral's form shifted through several colors before settling on a deep, steady blue. Perhaps it is time for the collective to evolve as well. Captain, would humanity be willing to help us learn? Not to control us, but to guide us. To show us how freedom and order can coexist. Around the Relentless, the gathered ships waited. In this moment, the future of not just the collective, but of human-alien relations hung in the balance. Reed looked at his crew, saw the pride and hope in their faces, and knew exactly what humanity's answer would be. Captain Reed was about to answer the High Admiral's request when Marcus's console erupted with alerts. Sir, multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace. Collective warships, but these are different. The space around them lit up as 30 new vessels appeared. Unlike the golden ships of the regular fleet, these were darker, more angular. Their weapon ports glowed with barely contained energy. The Unity Guard, High Admiral Stone's voice carried a note of worry. Our most loyal forces. They must have been summoned by someone who wants to maintain the old ways. The new ships moved into attack positions, surrounding both the Relentless and the gathered collective fleet. Their weapons powered up, targeting systems locking onto multiple vessels. This is Unity Commander Bright, a harsh voice cut through all channels. This gathering is unauthorized. This sharing of restricted knowledge is treason. All ships will power down and prepare for boarding. The human vessel will be destroyed. Reed's crew tensed at their stations, but their captain remained calm. Wilson, tactical analysis. Their ships are better maintained, sir. Newer weapons. But Wilson smiled slightly. Still the same outdated design philosophy. They just don't learn. The Unity Guard ships launched their first volley, not at the Relentless, but at the collective ships that had been watching the human historical broadcast. The attack was meant to frighten them back into submission. Instead, something remarkable happened. The collective ships, led by High Admiral Stone's flagship, moved to protect each other. Species that had been kept apart for centuries worked together, coordinating their shields to defend against the attack. It wasn't perfect. Their lack of practice showed, but it was something new. Look at that, Reed said softly. First taste of freedom, and they choose to protect each other. He straightened up. Wilson, defensive pattern delta. Jones, broadcast to all ships. Marcus, coordinate shield frequencies with our new allies. The Relentless moved into position, its advanced shields extending their protection over several of the weaker collective vessels. The Unity Guard ships pressed their attack, but found themselves facing something they'd never encountered. Cooperation between equals instead of forced obedience. Unity Commander. Reed's voice cut through the chaos of battle. Look around you. Look at how quickly they learned to work together. This is what happens when you let people choose their path instead of forcing it. Silence. Commander Bright's voice shook with rage. They are nothing without our guidance. We will restore order. But even as he spoke, more ships were arriving. Not warships this time, but vessels from all over collective space. Cargo ships, research vessels, colonial transports, all drawn by the broadcast of human history, all choosing to stand with their fellow species. "Sir," Marcus reported, excitement in his voice, "the crews of 3 Unity Guard ships just locked their commanders out of their control systems. They're standing down." Reed nodded. "The others will follow. They're seeing something they've never seen before. Unity through choice, not force." The battle, if it could even be called that, ended not with destruction but with transformation. One by one, the Unity Guard ships stood down. Some by choice, others when their crews simply stopped following orders. Commander Bright's final transmission was barely coherent. This is impossible. They cannot function without control. They cannot. They can. High Admiral Stone cut him off. They always could. We just never gave them the chance. The ancient commander's crystalline form glowed with new colors. Colors of change and hope. "Captain Reed, I believe you were about to answer my question. Will humanity help us learn?" Reed looked at his crew, seeing the pride in their faces. He looked at the fleet around them, seeing former enemies and slaves beginning to work together as equals. This was why humans had come to space, not to conquer, but to connect. "Admiral," Reed smiled, "I think we already have. But yes, we'll help you build something new. Not a collective that controls, but one that collaborates. Not an empire of force, but a federation of choice." The space around them was filled with ships of all sizes and designs, their crews, crystalline, plant-like, aquatic, and more, all watching and listening. In just a few days, a human warship had done what centuries of rebellion could not. Not through force of arms, but through the simple power of showing a better way. The galaxy was changing, and it all started because they never expected a human war vessel to show them the path to peace. 3 months after the standoff with the Unity Guard, the Relentless floated beside a massive space station under construction. The station's design was unlike anything seen before in collective space, a blend of human efficiency and the artistic touches of a dozen alien species working together. Reed stood at his familiar spot on the bridge, watching as construction crews from different species coordinated their efforts. Plant-like beings used their natural understanding of growth patterns to design living quarters that felt like home to all species. Crystalline engineers worked alongside human experts, learning from each other's strengths. "Amazing how quickly they adapted," Wilson said from his station. "Those construction pods are moving better than some Earth crews I've seen." "Freedom has that effect," Reed replied. "Give people a chance to excel, and they usually will." Marcus called out from his station, "Sir, incoming transmission from the station. It's High Admiral Stone." The main screen lit up, showing the crystalline admiral. His form now displayed colors that would have been unthinkable 3 months ago. Warm, welcoming patterns that spoke of openness rather than rigid control. "Captain Reed," Stone's voice carried genuine warmth. "The first phase of Unity Station is nearly complete. Your crew's assistance has been invaluable. Your people did the hard work, Admiral. We just showed them it was possible." Stone's form flickered with what Reed had learned was amusement. "Perhaps, but without the Relentless, we would still be enforcing unity rather than building it. The changes in just 3 months. Sometimes I can hardly believe it." Reed understood what he meant. The station was just the most visible sign of transformation. Throughout collective space, societies were awakening from centuries of enforced stagnation. Species that had been kept apart were sharing knowledge, combining their unique perspectives to solve problems that had stumped them for generations. "Sir," Jones called out excitedly, "you'll want to see this. The first graduating class from the Joint Training Program is coming out." The view screen split, showing a ceremony taking place inside the station. Young officers from every species in the former collective stood together, wearing new uniforms that displayed both their species symbols and a new emblem. A starburst surrounded by diverse hands joined in a circle. "The first of many," Stone commented proudly. They've learned more in 3 months of working together than we taught them in decades of control. Reed watched as a young crystalline officer shook hands with a plant-like cadet, both laughing at some shared joke. Nearby, a human instructor was deep in discussion with an aquatic species engineer, their hands moving animatedly as they discussed some technical problem. "Captain," Marcus interrupted softly, "long-range sensors are picking up something interesting. Ships approaching from deep space, designs we've never seen before." Reed and Stone shared a look. 3 months ago, such news would have triggered immediate battle stations. Now, Stone's form showed curiosity rather than alarm. "New visitors," the Admiral mused. "Perhaps they too never expected to find a human war vessel here. Or to find the collective transformed into something new," Reed added. "Should we prepare a welcome?" "Yes." Stone's colors shifted to thoughtful blues. "But not just from us. Let them see all of us working together. Let them see what happens when strength comes from cooperation rather than control." Reed nodded to his crew. Around Unity Station, ships of all designs began to move into position. Not in a defensive formation, but in a welcoming array that showcased the diversity of their new alliance. The Relentless took its place among them, no longer standing apart as the lone human vessel, but part of something greater. "You know," Reed said thoughtfully, "when we first jumped into this sector, I never expected things to turn out this way." Stone's crystalline form sparkled. "That seems to be a common theme with humans, Captain. You never do quite what's expected." And perhaps that's exactly what the galaxy needed. As they waited for the approaching ships, Reed looked at his crew, at the station under construction, at the fleet of diverse vessels working together in harmony. Sometimes the most powerful weapon in a warship's arsenal wasn't its guns or shields, but its ability to show a better way forward. The Relentless had come prepared for war, but had helped build peace instead. And that, Reed reflected, was the most human outcome of all.